Now that everything is completely separated a lot better, we're just spraying everything down, and we're gonna give the bottom side, flip stuff over, make sure we get everything as clean as absolute possible on all these parts. All right, you guys, I'm gonna talk to you guys briefly about this all-wheel steering kit from Volk Metalcraft right here. This is going to go on our rear end and replace our all-wheel steering rack that would be there. This kit includes 2 of these arms right here. So you have 2 arms, a couple of plugs in here. I'm not really quite sure what all these are for. And then you're gonna include 2 of these pieces right here that your arms will thread into right here. That will thread into that. And these go on your actual trailing arm right here. Or these might be called your hind joints. I'm not really sure. Now I've already did one. I'm going to be doing the other one here. I'll show you guys real quick. I just wanted to try this out on one of these before I showed you guys. And then this piece, like I said, will just thread right on in. And you'll have to size this up accordingly to fit on your suspension. But other than that, pretty much get it on, lock this nut down. These little metal pieces right here, they're pretty much just like metal tokens, essentially. These, what you can do if you wanted to, is where the existing bolt went to hold in your actual piece right here. You can weld these on if you want to. I don't think I'm going to. I just don't see a reason to. If water gets in here, this will allow it to actually like drain out. And if we put this little token on there, it's not going to allow it to drain out really. So I don't really think it's necessary. I'm going to show you guys the other one here really quick. We'll get it knocked out. This was the existing piece that was previously in here that we knocked out. You can see this little threaded hole here. That's where a bolt went through that we pulled out, and then we had to pound this piece out. Now, we're going to replace that with this kit that I just showed you guys. First thing we're going to do to install this is we're just going to clean out this inside in here, a little bit of brake clean and a towel, get this nice and clean. Then we're going to come in here and clean up this whole entire lip here, try to remove this paint and get this grinded down. I'm going to use a wire wheel. You could also use a grinder, but this is so that way we have something to weld to. Once you're all nice and shiny here around the edge, you can go ahead and take your little piece right here. It should go in pretty nice and easily. We're going to take it, get it set up on here, and we're going to tap this in with a hammer and get it in here seated all the way. Nice and seated in here all the way down. We can't go in any further. Clean up our edge here one more time with that wire wheel, and then we can start welding this on here. All right, this one is all welded up on here. The welds didn't turn out as good on this one, I don't think, as my other one, but they're just okay. They should hold. I'm sure it's going to be plenty strong. I just cleaned it up with the wire wheel, cleaned up all of that slag on there, and then I just hit it with the grinder to get any of those that spatter kind of removed so there's no little crappy pieces on here. Make sure that this piece threads in. Let's go ahead and test trial it here. Seems to be going pretty good. I'm sure this will work out just fine. So that's all we're going to do for this right now. Pretty much going to be clean, prep, and paint time. I have a bunch of wire wheels again. We got some red Scotch-Brite pads. Go over everything. We're going to try to get as much of the surface rust off as we can. I'm going to leave this piece assembled as is, and we're going to paint it just like this with this dust shield on and everything else. It's just, I don't want to risk disassembling this and damaging anything else. We're almost wrapping up on all of our parts with sanding here and prepping. Everything seems to be pretty dulled down. I'm just kind of going over a second time. We'll flip this over, hit the other side, but this is looking pretty decent. The only thing left I'll have to do is we'll power wash everything, clean all the parts again, and then we can hit these with some paint finally. I just had to go pick up some different press pieces here so we can get these ball joints pressed out. Looks like this one will work, so we're gonna get these pressed out for, this is the lower control arm. Everything is now laid out. We're just gonna hit it all with some surface prep cleaner here, and then finally we can get to painting these. Taped off some of the sections that I just don't want tape getting on. I should be able to control this pretty well, so no need to tape off everything. But like these, we taped off this. I used tin foil for some of these lines in here to cover that so we don't paint those. We got the axles out over here. Everything is set and ready to go. We're going to be using the same paint as I used on the front subframe and the VHT Rollbar chassis paint. We're going to be doing gloss black on everything except for the rear diff here. We're just going to do satin matte black on that. So 3 coats, 2 light coats followed by 1 heavy coat. And I'll show you guys what the results are going to be of this before we go ahead and assemble anything. Everything is now painted up with 3 coats on here. We're just going to wait for everything to dry, flip some stuff over that I need to, and then we'll hit everything up that second time. And I'm going to give this a complete overnight, full day and overnight to cure, to make sure everything does harden up before we do put it back together. Here is how everything turned out. It's been a couple days now. We gave everything a good chance to dry off, but today is going to be reassembly day. I'm just gonna get this knocked out as quickly as possible, get everything put back together and hopefully aligned properly and decently, so that way our rear end can go back in the car and we don't have any real big issues with this. What I have here is going to be the lower ball joint that will go on our lower control arm. These are the part numbers right here, K9372. These are from Detroit Axle. I've been running quite a bit of their suspension stuff. I'm using the tie rods in the front end, the ball joints in the rear. So definitely, so far liking their stuff. This is the equivalent of a Moog part number, but obviously it's made by this company. So we're gonna throw this in here real quick, get this pressed in. We got new ball joints pressed in both of the arms here. These are both going to be the lower control arms down here for the rear. We have the trailing arms. Everything is set in place where it's going to go on this car. What we need to do now is we're going to work on this all-wheel steering delete kit from Volk. What I'm going to do is we need to take out these actual arm pieces that are going to thread on right here onto our pieces that we already welded on. Now, when we thread these on, we need to measure out how far we need to tighten these in, which means what we're gonna do is take our pieces that we knocked out of here, and we're just gonna kind of size this up and eyeball it to see where exactly this is gonna go on here. So we're gonna set this down and we're gonna tighten this to the proper length, or what looks to be the proper length on this, before we go ahead and install it into our actual pieces here. But I took the hind joint here with the bolt that was used to thread it right through here on the top, just like so, kind of holding it in place. And this is where it would normally seat, and then just kind of take a look and measure just by eyeball to see if the ends here kind of match up and they're the same. We're gonna take this, we'll just kind of snug it down right now. Looking at this kit here and everything that comes in the all-wheel steering delete with Volk Metalcraft, you get these spacers in here. And I was wondering what these are for, but because there's such a big gap, these are what definitely will take up that gap inside of there. So we're just gonna pull this bolt out real quick. We'll install these in here, and it should take away this slop because that is quite a bit of room in there. And now it makes sense what these are for. We are now on here. I did end up removing these bushings. They will fit over these little metal spacer pieces in here. However, they don't do anything. We're gonna knock the other side out. I'm just gonna keep everything loose on here, but we're gonna get everything pieced together and then we'll tighten everything at the end. For our progress here, we have the trailing arms on the car. I just put on the lower control arms. We have our ball joint all hooked up down here. On the very bottom, we got the rear diff in, mounting brackets on, the actual brackets here that go on the front. Everything pretty much just needs to be tightened up. Pretty much one of the last things that we have here is we have the upper control arms that we need to put on here, and then the sway bar end link. Now, I did not paint or restore the upper control arms because I'm going to show you guys what we got in this box right here. These are also from Volk Metalcraft as well. These are going to be my new upper control arms for the rear on the car. That's also the reason why I did not paint, restore, or clean up my old ones, because I knew I was going to be using these. And the reason you'd want to get aftermarket upper control arms for the rear is if you are running coilovers and lowering your car. In order to compensate, the upper control arms don't have much room for play for adjusting camber, but these are fully adjustable and they adjust in and out. So these are super nice product. There's two different versions that Volk Metalcraft sells. This is actually the cheaper one, but it'll give us plenty of room for adjustment. The other version is if you're trying to really super slam your car, which is not what I'm going for. But the quality of these is actually like top notch, and these are made out of nice aluminum. They're a little bit lighter than stock, so save a couple more pounds off the rear. So let's go throw these in. Just check out how much nicer this is compared to the old rusty and crusty arm that would originally be in here. Now, the other thing too is I was just playing with the adjustment on this. So once you loosen up these lock collar nuts on both sides here, all you need to do is just take this and spin this, and you can see just by hand, I'm literally seeing this move out. I mean, this thing camber out, and it is so nice to see this thing adjust. And this is silky smooth right now. So we'll need to adjust this and play with this a little bit on the car, try to get it somewhat close. But this is going to be needed to take to an alignment shop for sure with all the tweaking that we have in here. We'll see if we need to move that in or out, but this is just awesome. I love how this works right now. We're going to get the other side on here, and then we're getting closer and closer to wrapping this up. Right now, I'm having to tighten up our all-wheel steering, our hind arm right here that I told you can adjust. We couldn't quite, you can see the sway bar link is a little bit further back than from where these bolt holes are. For that, we need to bring this in, which means that we need to tighten this arm. So I just tightened it a little bit. You can see there's hardly any thread showing. I was able to get the other side on over there, all those bolt holes lined up, but it looks like I just need to tighten this one up here. If stuff is not going into place, it's because something is probably out of alignment. So right now we're just trying to get everything kind of dialed in. And looks like we were able to get this side to fit in here just fine. Seemed like it did have a little bit more tension than the other side over there. I think we're there. Everything is now bolted in and on this subframe. Just check out how clean this thing is on here. Beautiful upper control arms from Volk Metalcraft. All-wheel steering delete, also from Volk Metalcraft, custom kit. Super nice. And I also just want to show you guys all the stuff that gets deleted with this all-wheel steering. So I saved the stuff to show you guys here. This is all the dead weight that we're getting rid of now on the car. So we got the rack and pinion, the driver side lines, the passenger side lines, and you have all these lines over here that went completely over this entire thing and was just draping over the whole thing. You also have the rear arms here too as well. These are a little bit hefty in themselves. There's a couple more brackets, just miscellaneous stuff on the car that is used to run the lines and all this hardware. All that stuff is now gone and everything looks so much cleaner on the car. This is exactly how it's going to go back in, just like this. All in all, I think the weight savings is somewhere supposedly right around 30 pounds, which is, it's pretty solid, but we should also be able to tighten up the rear and just clean things up so much better. I'm just torquing up the rear main subframe bolts here that we just installed. I don't know what the actual torque spec is on these. I think I heard there's like a range of somewhere right around 80 foot-pounds. I just torqued them to 65 foot-pounds. So everything is torqued to 65 right now. What I'm gonna do is we're gonna lower the jack now, just kind of let everything settle. And then we'll readjust this jack, move it a little bit, put the tension back up on it with the jack, and then we'll retorque them again here. And I'm gonna do these to probably 80 foot-pounds. just like that, we are finally now back on the ground. Rear subframe is in and we are completed. Just kind of taking a look here briefly at the alignment and kind of the specs on this, how it looks. And it actually looks pretty decent. Looks like we do have some negative camber in here, maybe close to 2 degrees, which is about what I like to run. But that seems decent. I can't really tell about the toe of what the wheel's doing, and I'm probably not going to be able to until I actually do get an alignment done to kind of tell how bad it is. But both sides don't seem like they're entirely out of whack, so because of that, I'm not going to touch anything with the suspension or move it. All right, well, that's going to be it. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.